Hello and welcome back to the channel. A long anticipated video from me, anyway.
Mhm.
Finally got Glenn coming on the channel. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you. I've been excited for this.
Yeah, you were the
Yeah.
reason, of course, that I made my channel in the first place. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
with the contest, so you know, really cool
Yeah.
to have you on and talk about. I know one of your favorite bands, King Crimson.
Yes.
Mm.
Top five band, I would say. Yep.
Yeah, there's
Hmm.
really interesting. We're going to be talking about our favorite songs from the first, the initial run from 69 to 74, from the Court of the Crimson King to, was it Lark's Tongues? No, Red was the last one, wasn't it?
Red would be the last one. Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. And yeah, I'm kind of interested. What was your first experience with King Crimson? Um,
Well, Court of the Crimson King was the initial one, and it was one of those albums that I bought when it came out based on the cover. I mean, who'd ever heard of King Crimson? But when you saw that cover, it was like instant purchase. Like, this has got to be good. And I remember putting the needle down for the first time and hearing 21st Century Schizoid Man and going, oh, whoa, that's pretty crazy.
yeah, I can
So
imagine.
that's always stayed with me. And strangely enough, as much as I liked the first album, I never bought another King Crimson album. I just stuck with that one, and I didn't keep up with the band for quite a few years. And it was only probably 10 years ago that I don't know what clicked on me. I think I started revisiting Court of the Crimson King. Actually, it was when the 30th anniversary sets came out with the DVD audio CDs and stuff because I was into DVD audio and SACD and all that. So I started picking them up, and then I started going, "Oh man, why have I been ignoring these albums?" So um, then just became obsessed, and you know, like I said, kind of regret that I dropped them, except for the first album for all that time.
I think,
And
yeah, a lot of the time the debut, because it's so iconic and so important for, not just progressive rock, but I think music in general, for that to come out in
mhm.
69 was pretty crazy. So I think a lot of people kind of fall into that of assuming that's the only one that matters, but they have a lot of really good stuff after that
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, Robert Fripp, the main creative force, also done some amazing session work, namely for
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel and David Bowie,
Yeah,
especially.
he's got a big, yeah,
Yeah.
David Bowie, Daryl Hall. I mean,
Yeah.
just the wide variety too, like just not people you'd expect. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I obviously first got into this type of music, 5 or 6 years ago when I was in my teens and discovering all this cool music that came out, 40, 50 years ago from that point. And Call of the Crimson King, kind of similar to what you were saying. I saw it on these like best albums of all time lists when I was first getting into, the Beatles and stuff. And I saw that album cover and I thought, wow, okay, that looks cool. So I listened to it and it was a shock because you got these 10-minute songs and that was not something I was used to in my listening, but it was so melodic at the same time whilst also
Yeah.
being really, instrumentally impressive, created a great atmosphere. And I've
Hmm.
loved that album since I first heard it. And like you, there was quite a gap until I listened to the rest of them. Um, I think I heard Red a couple of years ago for the first time because that was another one that was getting a lot of hype online.
Yeah.
And then it was only this year that I listened to the rest of these original run of the albums. So yeah, a lot of these are fairly new to me, but yeah, I might be biased in favor of Call of the Crimson King just because it was the one that really kicked it all off for me. But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the best. Like I said, King Crimson is like the top five band of all time for me, and in the Court of the Crimson King is, or I could arguably put it maybe third or fourth favorite album of all time. I think it is the third favorite. So
yeah,
I always put King or Court of the Kings and Court of the Crimson King and then Aqualung. They're always kind of my third and fourth favorite
nice.
albums.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of prog, I think, yeah, I don't think much beats Court of the Crimson King for me, and maybe close to
No,
the edge, but
and arguably the father of prog music, that
yeah,
album. But you
yeah.
know,
So, with all that rambling out of the way, here we go. We're going to go into our top tens. We're going to each, I guess I'll go first with my number.
sure.
Um, and I'm going with the album that we've just spent most of the time talking about. I'm going to go with a song from In the Court of the Crimson King. And I'm going with I Talk to the Wind.
Ah, beautiful
Uh,
song.
yeah, really pretty. And I think it works really well in the context of the album because it's very low key compared to the really grand, epic songs like the title track and 21st Century Schizoid Man. And even though Epitaph is pretty, it's a lot more epic as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I Talk to the Wind is it really works well, like I said, in the flow of the album as something a bit less intense, maybe.
Yeah.
It has a great atmosphere, great flutes. Obviously, I suppose we're both going to be talking a lot about Greg Lake's vocals as well on that debut album. Just incredible,
Mm-hmm.
really, really strong. And they had a lot of different vocalists in their time, and I don't think any of them match Greg Lake as much as
No,
um,
no.
Haskell and I like Boz as well. They're not
Yeah.
they're not great.
John Wetton is probably second, I would say.
Yeah, John
But
Wayne's great as
yeah,
well. But
yeah,
they didn't have a bad vocalist, but they were really competing against Greg Lake for me anyway.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I Talk to the Wind's my number 10.
That's great. And what a contrast from the opening track that kind of blows your head off.
Yeah,
And then into I Talk to the Wind. It's just
yeah,
like, whoa.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
amazing. My number uh, 10 is an instrumental, the title track from
nice.
Lark's Tongue and Aspect. I
Mm.
love the way this album starts. It's just like there's this really cool percussive thing going on for a minute or two, and then it kind of just builds into the guitar riff, and I just love that. And when you see them live, I mean that's a big staple of their concerts. It's the Lark's Tongue Part 1 and Part 2. So yeah, it's funny. I've been listening to more King Crimson the last couple of days. Just albums I don't listen to that often, and Lark's Tongue is an album I don't put on that often. And I went, man, I love this freaking album. Like it's so good. And it's so I'm going, geez, I don't know why I don't listen to that more often. But
Yeah,
that's my number 10.
that's the thing, isn't it? When your attention is so focused on some of the other stuff, yeah, some of them can
Mm-hmm.
be neglected. So my number 9, I feel like this is one you might have higher. Um, it's from Red, and it is Starless, the closing track. Um, I think this is a great
Mm.
song. Truly epic in every sense of the word. A really memorable vocal part as well. Like I said, as much as they like to get into their jazz and into their really sort of fantasy led prog music, they had a real keen sense for melody, which I
Mm-hmm.
think people kind of underestimate, especially on some of these albums like Red and Court of the Crimson King, the more famous ones. Because there are parts in all of these songs that have vocal parts that stick in your head, even though they're like
Mm-hmm.
these grand proggy epics. And I mean, you always got to love the guitar work from Robert Fripp, but this song is a standout for that. And I think it only falls down to number 9 because it's not one I listen to as much. But I mean, any of these top 10, you could make the argument that they're number 1 because King Crimson are a hell of a band. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to downplay how brilliant this song is by putting it
No,
number
no,
1.
I don't think there's any wrong answers in these lists that we're
Yeah.
doing here.
So
I think Starless might make an appearance later in the show.
maybe.
We'll see. My number 9 is from what has become my second favorite King Crimson album, Islands. I think this is a great album. When you talk about melody and stuff, I mean, this is probably the greatest example of it. This album is much more less chaotic than some of the others. Maybe is that a good way of putting it?
Say
It's
so, yeah.
more melodic, softer type songs. I go with the letters. Poison
You're not
pen
going to
in
believe this.
hand.
That's also my number 8.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a beautiful song. I mean, lyrically, it's gorgeous and vocally perfect too. So, yeah, that's interesting. So
Yeah,
that's my number. Yeah, that's my number 8. Number 9, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, it's your number nine,
Yeah.
my number eight. So we were quite close
Wow.
on
Very
lining up
close.
on that.
Yeah.
What I love about this song is the quiet intro. That sort of the whole mix on this album is very quiet. I agree,
It is.
a brilliant album. But the mix is really quiet, and then these massive horns come in about a minute into the song, and you're just like, "What?" It's like
Yeah.
it takes you by surprise every time, even if you've heard the song 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get then after that, you get like a slower jazzy section.
hmm
And you get these amazing vocals from Boz coming in with so much attitude, which I love.
Yeah.
And then again, you go back to the quiet at the end. So for a 4.5 minute song, it's really a journey, and it's quite
Yeah.
epic. And
Yeah.
all of that stuffed into that short song. And yeah, you're right. It's definitely an album where they had the sense for melody more so than some of their others. A lot more tranquil, less
Yeah.
chaotic.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Wow. That's great. I'm glad you picked that song. Next one for me is the second track off of Red, which, boy, there's a lot of Crimson fans who think this is their best album. This really gets a lot of love. But Fallen Angel, I
Nice.
love that song. Just again, it's just vocally, the vocal is perfect. The guitar is perfect. It's a great rock song actually. But yeah, John Wetton's vocals are fantastic. Fallen Angel, number 8,
Yeah, I think that's you could argue that's
or my
probably
number 7, I guess.
the
No, that's number 8. That's my
yeah.
number 8.
There's
I'm
the
looking at your list.
that's probably the heaviest album I would say. Is the one
Yeah,
that
definitely,
rocks
definitely
out.
the heaviest album.
Yeah.
Red, yeah. Mm-hmm.
My number 7, we're gonna get out another big gun here, and we mentioned it in the intro. 21st Century Schizoid Man.
Oh,
7. Uh, I mean, everything that's been said about this song is fair enough. It's a perfect song, really. It's iconic for a reason. The amazing horn section on there, the bit of distortion that's put, I think it's distortion on Greg Lake's vocals that really
yes.
make them
Mm-hmm.
pack that punch. And
Yeah.
again, for 1969, I can't imagine hearing this for the first time. It's just blows my mind. Even hearing it for the first time in 2018 or whatever it was when I heard it, I was like, "What is this? This is crazy."
Yeah, it is crazy.
And I think it's so memorable and or one of the all-time great album openers. Like how do you top opening with such a
it leaves quite an impression.
yeah.
Time you
And again, it's perfect how it links into "I Talk to the Wind" as well. It's just brilliant song.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about it. Number 7.
You know, you talk about the distortion on Greg Lake's voice. The first time I heard this record, and I still remember thinking this, it reminded me of John Lennon. Like John liked to distort his voice and certain songs. And that the first time I heard it, I thought that sounds like John.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I always think of it like that. I don't know. I could be totally off base there, but
No, I can hear it. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Okay, my number 7, 21st Century Schizoid Man.
Wow. I assume that would be higher for you. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, you said it all. It's just one of the class openers of all time. Sets a mood for that album and leaves an amazing impression. And then things just take a left turn, right? You hear that, and then you go, and you're all into this. And then all of a sudden, it's like I Talk to the Wind and Epitaph, and then it takes you on a journey. That album,
Yeah.
and I don't know what I'll say. Just an incredible vocal performance, just an incredible song.
Yeah, that whole album is almost like a storybook in itself, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
such an epic journey.
Mm-hmm.
My number 6, I'm pretty sure you will not have this one. It's probably my most out there pick. It's from an album I don't even like that much. It's from In the Wake of Poseidon, which I think is the weakest of the first 7.
I'm not going to argue with you. It's certainly, yeah.
But this track I've picked
Actually,
is Cadence and Cascade, which I think is incredibly, incredibly beautiful. Sort of mirrors, really great album cover. I'll say that, yeah.
yeah.
It kind of mirrors "I Talk to the Wind" in a lot of ways, but I think this is even more pretty in its presentation. I love the
Mm-hmm.
acoustic guitar and those twinkly little pianos, and a great vocal performance from, I think it's Haskell on this song. It's the only song he sings.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
the
think
rest
you're
of
right.
the album is Greg Lake.
Yeah.
And like it couldn't be much more different to my last pick, 21st Century Schizoid Man. And I always thought this would be really good for like a movie soundtrack. It kind of fits that kind of vibe to me. It's very much paints a picture in the music, and it elicits, yeah, very very tender for them, very emotional song. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my wild card pick at number 6, Cadence and
Well, there you go. Well, I kind of got a wild card pick too, off of Lark's tongue again. I keep going back to this album, but Book of Saturday
yeah,
is again a beautiful song, and John Wetton's perfect vocal on this. It might be my favorite John Wetton vocal performance on a King Crimson album. And yeah, this is a gorgeous song. It's yeah, they could be pretty when they wanted to,
yeah, yeah.
or ugly, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, they could do both just
Ugly
as
in a good way, not in a bad way.
well. Yeah, no, I totally get you. Yeah. Um, and then into the top five, this is where it gets really. I mean, all these songs I love on the top 10, but top five is just another level. And my number five, we're dipping back into Islands, and I've got the title track Islands, which I think is just gorgeous. You
Absolutely.
know, it's one of these songs that, someone I speak to said it was, he would consider it as a funeral song, which I can totally hear. It's very pretty, it's very beautiful,
Yeah, it
and
is.
again, the vocal from Boz is amazing. There's the instrumental section after the last verse as well, which is just fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like it's the perfect closing track. They knew how to
Yeah,
open the albums, and they knew how to close the albums. Every time they nailed it
yeah,
spot on. And
yeah,
it really feels like the culmination of everything on that album, all wrapped into one, and it's just lovely. Great,
yeah. That's amazing.
really good horns.
I can tell you a story about that song. 2019, I bought the celebration package ticket for King Crimson, where it cost me $500, but you before the show, they take you in front of the stage. David Singleton, their manager, comes out, and there was probably about 20 of us who paid for the package. And David Singleton, their manager, comes out and kind of talks about the whole business of King Crimson and how they get on the road and how they make money and whatever. It was really interesting talk. And then they always promise you one of the band members will come out and shoot the breeze with you. And it was Jacko Jaksic, who is the current vocalist and second guitar player.
Mm.
And I'm a big Jacko fan. I think he's amazing. And anyway, so when I got to ask him a question, I asked him what his favorite King Crimson song to sing was, because he wasn't there in the years when these albums were recorded and released, and he said Islands.
Mm.
And he told a story about being in Japan, and they played near the site of the atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and he said it was just so moving to play that song where that happened, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
very, very moving song, and I can see why. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense. Really beautiful.
So where are we? I'm on number 5.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going with the last song on the first album, title song, "In the Court of the Crimson King."
Nice. Yeah.
He said they know how to start an album and know how to end an album. It's just an incredible song, so epic and beautiful lyrics, well sung, perfect arrangement, just great ending on that album.
Yeah. That was actually the first King Crimson song I ever heard, because I heard it in the film Children of Men.
Oh, really? I didn't know it was in a film.
Yeah, I was watching that film, and then that song came on, and it was the da 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 da, and I was like, "Wow, this is." And then I just ended up listening to the album, a couple of years later, just out of coincidence. So, yeah, great pick. My number four from the same album is going to be Epitaph, a staple of any King Crimson list.
hmm
really melancholic. Like I said, it's the mix of the prettiness of I Talk to the Wind with the epic nature of 21st Century Schizoid Man. Greg Lake is just amazing on this
Oh,
album. His vocals are off the charts, so good. And yeah, again, the acoustic instrumentation, when they use the acoustic instruments, there's something about it that really gets to me. You know, these really impressive musicians, you know, they knew how to make a really, really, you know, electric guitars sound great as well. But the acoustic stuff really, like you said, when they want to be pretty, they know how to. And
hmm,
Epitaph is probably the best example of that. So
yeah.
comes in as my
And
number 4.
the comment I like to make about that song is that it isn't dated lyrically.
No,
It sounds like you could just write that today with what's going on in the world.
yeah,
Like it's just, you know,
for sure,
the
yeah,
hand, everything's in the hand of fools, and it's so timely.
yeah.
And yeah, amazing song.
I don't think they get enough credit for the lyrics. There's some really good lyricism throughout.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're strong lyrically for sure. Yeah. My number four is off of Lark's Tongue again. Is the song that leads off side two, "Easy Money."
Nice, yeah,
Another great rock song and great vocal performance again. Yeah, just easy money. Damn, it's heavy and it's just again great lyrics and yeah, cool song.
yeah, yeah. That's a good one. It didn't quite. It was one of the last cuts from my list, but into the top 3 then. And
Yeah.
this is kind of cool because this was one you pointed out as a bit of a wild card, but I've also got it on my list. My number 3 is Book of Saturday from
Oh,
Lark's Tongue
great.
and Aspic. Um, oh my God, when I first heard this song, this is one of the first ones that made me realize that there was more to them than in the Court of the Crimson King. And I should have known that really, but
Hmm.
hearing this, you know, with a different vocalist, and the guitar on this just blows my mind. It's just all over the place, and then the reversed guitar comes in one ear as well, and
Hmm.
the way they just overlap over each other and are in perfect harmony must have been painstaking to get that to work. But man, it is one of the most unique songs they ever put out. You know, whilst being really weird with the guitar work, it's still, you know, one of the more pretty melodic songs they did.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a great psychedelic effect to it, which I think they didn't really dip into that much. But
No, no.
it's just
That's
an awesome song. I love it. It's probably one of the ones I listen to the most because it's so short, right? And I
yeah,
just chuck it on and yeah.
that's cool. Oh, I'm glad that made your list.
Mm,
My number three is one that was your number five is Islands.
yeah.
I've kind of already talked about it, but just it's such a beautiful song. The lyrics are incredible and it's very passionate. And like I said, when I've seen them a couple times live, and most not in back in the old days, but recently in 2017 and 2019, and just that's one of the standout tracks from both shows, and just incredible song. Love it.
Yeah, I imagine this.
Could have been number one. My top three are all kind of tied for number one. I'm passionate about all of them.
I imagine, yeah, especially powerful to hear it performed live by the band as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope they're going to do another tour. I don't know. They've kind of said that was the last tour
Mm,
after COVID, at the end of COVID there, but I'm hoping they're going to do one more.
yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
complain. So,
David Singleton and Robert Fripp are touring right now,
ah,
doing a. I don't know if there's any music involved. I think it's more of a talk and just discussion on music and the history of Crimson and all that. But
interesting.
they're coming to Toronto, but it's like $80, and I don't know if I want to pay $80 just to, if they were going to play, I would be there.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert Fripp is definitely an interesting guy, though. I imagine he has a lot of
He
anecdotes.
was cool. Actually, when I talked about doing the celebration package thing, Robert Fripp came out and talked to us, which was unannounced. He came
Mm,
out for about I'd say 25 minutes,
wow, yeah.
and just stood in front of everyone and talked. But he said, as soon as he came out, he said, "Do not ask me any questions." He said, "I'll talk to you and stand here and tell you some interesting stuff. But if you ask me a question and you ask me the wrong question, it throws me off and puts me into a certain type of mood. I'm not going to be able to perform." He said, "That throws me off too much." He said, "I have to be in the right frame of mind to play." And he said,
Wow.
if you throw me a curveball, it's going to screw up the night. So he was great. He really charming and told lots of cool stories. Yeah,
That's great to hear. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, so my number two is going to be also from Islands, which I can probably reveal is my second favorite King Crimson album, behind In the Court of the Crimson King. So we're similar on the albums there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be the opening track, Formentera Lady.
Oh yeah, beautiful
I
song. That
think,
almost made my list.
yeah, I think is just amazing. And again, despite being a 10-minute jazzy, proggy epic, it's
Mm-hmm.
really memorable and really, melodic and easy on the
Yeah.
ears. I love the opening part, really ominous cellos in there, which really is sort of
Mm-hmm.
like a spooky feel. And then you get the twinkly pianos come in, and it's like really jazzy, and you're like, what is going on? Because
Yeah.
it's like the two albums before didn't even get into this territory at all. And then obviously with the main part where the title of the song comes into it, with just a beautiful vocal melody and really great instrumentation. And yeah, then the final section too, such really well recorded string section, just sounds beautiful. And it's one that I like putting this album on at night to sort of, sometimes when I'm feeling a bit, not ready to go to sleep, I'll put on
Yeah.
maybe Formentera Lady or Island.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's
Yeah.
because that mix is so quiet, and the nature of the music, it really helps me sort of chill out. And you know Formentera Lady is definitely my favorite on that album, so it's
Oh yeah, what a great album that is, man.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, this is the one that grows in stature for me all the time. Island. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that's very cool. It's so close to making my list. My number two is your number nine, Starless.
Nice.
And again, that song just blows me away. The vocal performance on that song is incredible, and I I love that image of Bible black describing darkness. It's
Mm.
just when you think of the cover of a Bible, it's just like it's just perfect. Like no one, I don't know if anybody's ever come up with an image like that.
Yeah.
Starless and Bible black. It's just you can close your eyes and see it. And yeah, just a beautiful performance and incredible song. One of my all-time favorite songs. It would definitely be tied for number one with my number one pick that's coming up.
Nice. Yeah. So here
Yeah.
we are with the number ones. I guess before we reveal them, I'll just sort of, I don't really have any written down, but there are songs that I do like that I haven't been able to mention. I do like "Ladies of the Road" from Islands is a really good one. "Lark's Tongues and Aspic" you had
Yeah.
close to making mine, the first part. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Oh, the Red title track as well was close for
Yes. Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
And one more Red Nightmare. I like it. Yeah, I love the Red album. Like you say, it's their heaviest album, but I love it. And just about anything off of the first album you could have put on this list.
And
Moonchild or
the Great
yeah.
Deceit I like as well, from Starless and
Yep.
Black.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So
That's actually an album that I noticed when I was going through this. I don't have anything on my list from that album
yeah,
in my top 10. And I'm going, I'm gonna play that album this afternoon because I haven't played it recently. So we'll check that out.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I do like that album. I think it's very consistent, but it lacks like the real all time great King Crimson
Mm-hmm.
for me, anyway. So yeah. Speaking of all time great King Crimson songs, my number one is "In the Court of the Crimson King" from "In the Court of the Crimson King." Uh, I mean, to me, obviously, I mentioned it was the first one of theirs I heard, and I thought it was even better in the context of the album, closing the album.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely incredible. To me, this is their most epic track. It really paints such a vivid image, of this like fantasy world. You
Mm-hmm.
sort of hard to follow what exactly the lyrics are talking about a lot of the time on this song, but that doesn't really matter because you catch
No.
things like "Smile as the puppets dance," and it's just that
Mm-hmm.
image gets stuck in your head. And it's like very whimsical song.
Absolutely.
Greg
Yeah.
Lake nails the vocal as always.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the opening drum part hits, you're in. There's no getting out of it. You got to listen to the whole song. It is just amazing.
Yeah,
Acoustic guitar and flute and all that kind of stuff. I think honestly, that debut might be one of the great drum albums of all time. I
yeah,
can't think of many that I like, but maybe like Quadrophenia or something like that. But there's no, Led Zeppelin 4, but that's like the highest of the
yeah.
high drum albums for me.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I mean, I think Robert Fripp was a big fan of making sure the drums are always front and center. I
Mm,
mean, now when they tour, they have three drummers.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like he's big on the percussion, and it works so well with their band. Yeah, yeah, you're right about that. That first album, it's great.
So yeah, no complaint. Every instrument is played to perfection, not a second
Hmm.
wasted. One of
Yeah,
the greatest songs of all time. Period. Like nothing.
yeah,
It's a right up there. So,
yeah. And the
so
thing about this album too, when it was released, it didn't just blow people away who were just music listeners. Musicians were
mm,
almost scared of it.
yeah,
They're going, "Holy crap, we got to beat this now. This is where it's
yeah,
going."
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
My number one is Epitaph.
Mm,
I said I just the song is so timeless, and I listen to it, and I just like I said, with the political climate of the world, the troubles we're in, it just man, I don't know why people aren't playing it more often, or you don't hear it in some kind of context on a show or something that take advantage of those lyrics. And vocally, just Greg Lake's greatest performance. I don't know if you have this or if you heard it, that box set they put out, the 3 CD box set of In the Court of the Crimson King. Do you have this?
no, I don't know. It
It's
sounds.
amazing. So the first is 2019 stereo mixes and instrumental mixes. The second CD is an alternate album, expanded edition, and they use for Epitaph Greg Lake's isolated vocal.
Oh
It's
wow.
a cappella,
Oh
and
my
it
god.
just makes it's worth buying just for that. It
Yeah,
sounds, oh, you got to hear that. It's incredible.
I can only imagine. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
just absolutely mind blowing. Yeah, that's an amazing set if you can get your hands on it.
Mm.
But yeah, Epitaph number one.
Fair choice. It was what, my number four. Yeah.
Yeah,
So no complaints there. I mean, yeah, I guess concluding thoughts. King Crimson to me, one of the great prog bands. Probably, Yes are right up there as well. But I don't know. King Crimson are really good. It's hard
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Yes, and King and Crimson, I'm pretty say are yeah. But people throw Genesis in and whoever else. But there's a lot of great prog bands. But I think King Crimson is my number one. And
Yeah,
yes,
that's.
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
just looking at this list of songs that I've got here, I'm like, not just prog bands. Most bands don't have a top 10 songs as good as this. Like,
No, no,
um,
and none of these are pop songs. They're not, none of them are hit records. They're all just deep tracks and incredible songs. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, it was great to finally do this and really
yeah.
good discussion and talk about King Crimson there.
I wanted to show this to you too, or anybody who's watching, if they're interested in pursuing King Crimson more. Have you read this book by any chance, In the Court of the
No,
Crimson King by Sid Smith?
yeah.
Incredible book.
Oh
It
my,
was first released in 2001, and they just updated it in the last year or two, right up to 2019.
wow.
So fantastic read. It's so good. It's well read. It's well written. It's not boring, or it's just really interesting book. If you're a reader of music biographies, Sid Smith in the Court of the Crimson King is one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to look that up. I find, yeah, especially the different personalities that were coming in and out of the band and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just
Yeah.
such a great story. I mean, it just
Mm.
moved all along. Yeah.
Yeah, like those
So many
seven
people in
albums.
and out.
No, I mean, I think Poseidon sounds a bit like Caught the Crimson King, but other than that, they're always
Yeah.
changing the style that they're going for. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
the problem with Poseidon is they made it too much like Court, but it could never compete with
Yeah,
Court.
yeah. And then the
So
Islands, which was way too different, so nobody liked it at
yeah,
the time. But then
yeah,
it's
nobody
kind of
liked
had
it.
a
Yeah, but now as time moves on, it's and you look back at how incredible that album is, really amazing. Yeah, but
I've
Poseidon's still just the weaker sister of Court.
I'm glad we could agree on Islands because I love that album.
Yeah, me
I don't,
too.
I don't
Okay.
own it yet, but I'm gonna get a copy if it kills me.
Yeah. Well, all that, they reissued all the Crimson stuff on 200-gram vinyl. If you can get any of those reissues, they sound amazing on
Yeah.
200-gram vinyl. Man, the records are heavy as like a frisbee. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
really good. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. That's
thanks.
another thing about them. Everything was well recorded. Like you don't.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard even the worst CD or the vinyl. I've never heard of. You put it on, it's always just sounds perfect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I was mentioning with Islands is the strings on that album just sound
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
vocals, whichever vocalist they had, whether it was Wetton or Haskell or Boz,
yeah.
like they all sounded amazing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, this
thanks,
was
thanks.
fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll do a
Oh,
video at some point soon. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, anytime you want to do another one, that would be very cool.
yeah. Subscribe to Glenn if you haven't. You probably have.
Thank you.
If not, there'll be a link in the description. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us. And
Oh, thank you, Tom.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah, we'll do this again at some point. Thank you.
Okay, you have a great day.
Yes.
Take care.